All right, we're gonna get started, but keep filling out the forms. If you want to speak, you can hand them to one of the people on the ends here, and they'll get them to me. But we will get started. So I will call to order the Planning Commission meeting on April 19th at 6:31 p.m. First up on the agenda is approval of minutes for March 15th. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by Ed, second by Randy. Any changes at all? Seeing none, then.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
my name is misspelled in one spot, and then under G, it looks like there might be a sentence that was left out.
All right.
No worries.
Two changes. And Ed, are you okay with the amendments, the friendlies? All right. All right. Then all in favor of approving as amended, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. All right, that's approved. Next up is public appearances for non-agenda items. I think everyone's here for an agenda item, but if there's anyone here who's for a non-agenda item, let me know right now, but I think it's for especially a couple of different specific projects. All right, not seeing anything else. We'll keep moving. Anything that we need to change on the agenda? All right, well, let's get to it then right away. First up is the public hearing and consideration of comprehensive development plan CDP 2441-22 for Thermo Fisher. If the applicant can come up and kind of tell us what you're doing here, we'll have you speak. Then we'll have the members of the public, speak after that. If you'd like to come up and tell us what you're doing, that'd be great.
Good evening, guys. My name is Brian Tchiski. I'm with Ruckert & Milke on behalf of Thermo Fisher. Thermo Fisher is, I think, one of the larger landholders here in Fitchburg with approximately 70 acres. They're looking at trying to sell a parcel of land that they have, which is west of the Badger State Trail. It's approximately 7 acres. Due to city ordinance, this requires a comprehensive development plan for Thermo Fisher to be submitted and approved before we can get to any of the plat reviews. Currently, right now, Thermo Fisher has a potential buyer for this parcel. It would remain the industrial specialized or follow the future land use for the city of Fitchburg. Unfortunately, at this time, Thermo Fisher, it's very early in the process. They don't know any other details of what this land potentially could be changed to. If it does, it would obviously have to appear in front of the board here in Plan Commission. There's a current project that's still outstanding that will be wrapping up here in May, which was approved in 2020 for the fill site that's over there from some of the city projects. I've worked with the contractor to get that wrapped up here. Should be end of May, beginning of June. They're going to remove the Hall Road and basically finish the restoration. There's no more fill that is being brought on site. So that should be done here soon. So the CDP here before you is kind of their existing conditions of the land that they have and the water surface runoff and the ponds that they have installed here recently. But it is just basically to show that they have an interest in selling a 7-acre parcel to be developed by somebody else potentially. Obviously, this is for a tax base, potential new jobs. So that's kind of where it's at right now. As of now, they do not have any further expansion plans. If there are any, it would be for their campus and operations themselves on the parcel that is to the west of the trail. The parcel to the east that is the fill site will remain a park, a conservatory, and stay a green space basically to allow animals and habitat to settle back in.
All right, Deanna, could you do a staff report, please?
I certainly could. I'm just going to fill in a little bit, maybe repeat a little bit of what Brian said. Thermo Fisher owns about 70 acres of land in the vicinity of Verona Frontage Road, Sprocket and Spoke Drive, and near the Badger Trail bike trail. Thermo Fisher intends to create a 7-acre parcel at the northeast corner of McKee and Spoke Drive to accommodate a proposed buyer. There is not an identified buyer at this time. So what is happening is that Thermo Fisher has brought forward a comprehensive development plan, which is required by code for these larger sites that go through the planning process. Thermo Fisher properties are included in the Arrowhead redevelopment plan. These plans are not fitting in anymore. There's been some changes. And so I believe that the proposed CDP reflects the overall trajectory of the Arrowhead development plan, but is moving in a more realistic direction. If I could just have the map on my screen come up, would you mind doing that? Okay, sorry, that'll be helpful. I thought it was here.
Yep.
Okay. Let me try to get back into Zoom again. I thought I was there. And while that's working, seem to have lost internet or something. Okay, I will speak to this and we'll work on our technical difficulties. So the parcels of the CDP are identified as follows. So the parcels to the east of the Badger State Trail, though that parcel, the southern portion of it is going to be identified as conservation and park. And then the northern portion of that will continue to be ag transitional. To the west of the Badger State Trail, that's where the existing Thermo Fisher parcels will remain the same. And then the 7-acre parcel to the south at the corner of Spoke and McKee Road would be identified as business. And I am sorry, I lost my internet connections. But let me see. I can try it this way. But if you want to, I'll go, okay, so Thermo Fisher has worked closely with staff and to address concerns of the Pine Ridge Neighborhood Association. We believe the proposed CDP is consistent with the future land use plan and in keeping with the general goals of the Arrowhead plan. The CDP also intends to enhance Thermo Fisher's future development opportunities as it protects the quality of life and property values in the neighborhoods. So staff recommends approval of the CDP with 7 conditions. And it'll be really helpful if I can figure out how to get back onto Zoom. I still don't have. Perfect. Yes. 39. I'm on 39. There I go. Now do you got me? Thank you.
Gotcha.
Sorry. I don't know. Okay. I messed this up.
A little hard to see. It's a little easier on the TV screens, I think.
Yeah,
And it gets washed out a little bit on the big screen.
it's really hard to do it on here. Can you guys pull that one up easier? Yeah.
Just so the public knows, we are working on improving the projector in here. It's in the budget.
Here. Boy, I'm just losing everything. I'm sorry.
There you go. Oh, you had it.
Yes, that's the one. Thank you.
And the bike path is going in the middle of those 4 colored parcels, is that correct?
Yes, that's the
For
Badger
reference.
State Trail.
And the red piece is what they are piecing off and it sounds like plan to sell.
Correct.
All right. Anything else before?
Nope, that's all from my staff report.
All right. So then I'll open the public hearing, and just for a reminder for members of the public that unfortunately we do limit you to 3 minutes. But if you can come up, I have Holly first. Powell, if you'd like to come up and to one of the, if you want to step back or one of the sides is fine too. Doesn't matter. Welcome, Holly.
Hello, I'm Holly Powell. I'm the president for the Pine Ridge Neighborhood Association. So I've been a resident of Fitchburg since 2012. I bought my house in 2013, and I love the community. I think my favorite thing about Fitchburg is great neighbors. We know each other by name, and great services. So libraries, schools, everything about Fitchburg we really like. So seeing this neighborhood change over time, we've had the Phil site the last year and a half. That's been kind of tough working from home and listening to all that construction keep going on. So when the CDP came out, I guess I had a lot of questions about the Arrowhead redevelopment plan and how that Arrowhead plan doesn't match what's actually being done with the land at all. So I think there were like 5 different proposals of ideas of what might happen with the land. And from what I'm seeing, that's not really coming to fruition. There's no public building going in that I know of. I guess, is that going to change at all? Is there still a possibility for a public building within the Thermo campus?
Why don't you just go ahead and say whatever you need to say, and I can address anything afterwards.
Okay.
I don't want to take up part of your.
So I guess I'm really confused in general on the Arrowhead redevelopment plan because it just seems like how the land is being used is very different than what we're seeing now. So on the east side of the bike path that's closest to the Pine Ridge neighborhood, and agriculture is how it's being used now, and that's fine. Since 2013, a lot has changed with just the animals coming and going. We don't see animals as much anymore. We don't have deer anymore, just the turkeys. So I like the idea of keeping that agriculture. That would be great, but agriculture transitional, I'm not sure I fully understand that definition, other than it might be solar panels or something. I guess I'd like to hear kind of a list of all the possibilities of what transitional agriculture might mean or what that would mean for us. Dane County currently owns the woods that are directly north of us, and there's a lot of mountain bikers in the area. I don't know if we have any mountain bikers here, but really, really cool destination. We have people park in the neighborhood and then bike in, and that's a really cool feature. In Deanna's memo, there's talk about the CDP is going to enhance and protect the quality of life and property values of the Pine Ridge neighborhood. I guess I didn't quite see that when I was reading through the CDP. I could definitely be missing something, but I would like to see how the commission members feel that it's going to be enhancing our neighborhood. We're about 42 single-family houses, and we've got the 5 duplexes. Something unique about our neighborhood, though, is that we have to be owner-occupied. So all of our single-family houses are owned, they're maintained great. We know our neighbors because we're not transient as a group. And then we do have the duplexes that can be rented that face McKee Road. And so we do have a little bit of turnover there, but again, I mean, it's kind of cool that we get to know our neighbors because we all own our houses and, you know, we have to live in them, so. So yeah, I guess I'd like to hear the take for the commission on how that quality of life and property values will be protected with the CDP. And then I guess some of the other questions I had was just about.
Holly, too. You're at the 3 minutes, if you could wrap up quick.
Okay,
Sorry.
I guess that's it then.
All right, sorry, thank you. I also have Deborah Neal or Nell here to speak.
Aye.
Nah. Come on up.
Hi.
Hi.
I don't public speak, so I was forced into this. Do I need to say my name and stuff? or no?
Sure.
Okay, it's Deborah Nye. I've been on Conservancy Way, which is the last road in the Pine Ridge area against the Conservancy. Good name for the road. Since 2000, been there 22 years. And I am very concerned about what's going on with proposals and very confusing as to getting multiple copies of different plans. And we fought this, what was it, 10 years ago? I don't know, a while ago, where there were some talk about putting warehouses in the back, which is basically my backyard. When I built with Kaganza Builders, I was not informed that Thermo Fisher owned that land. They just said, oh, you have Conservancy in your backyard, and isn't it wonderful? So I did not know that that was owned by Thermo Fisher. My concern with this new plan now is some talk has been made about it being agricultural transitional, which confuses me. I'm not exactly sure what that term means. But there was some energy use terminology also used. Solar panel farm was also thrown out there. And I would like to know if that is what that means. And if that's a possibility. To me, that means clear cutting our woods because you don't have solar panels with trees. So that's my concern. I'm, like I said, the last house as far as you can go. So that 200 feet they're giving me or saying, oh, it'll be 200 feet. That's, you know, how would you like a solar panel farm in your backyard 200 feet away? That is now heavily wooded as a conservancy. So my concern is, what does transitional agricultural mean? And now that, can we, if they say that they're not going to build those warehouses, which we saw the plans, we saw plans with 2-storied parking ramps in our, you know, that 200 feet from our property lines, can we get it in writing that this is not going to happen again? That this is going to be conservancy and also park? I'm not exactly sure what that means. Does that mean that they're going to cut trees and make it a park, or can they just leave it alone and have it be conservancy? I don't see where that area can be a park either. But if it has to be something, I guess a park is the best thing. So anyway, that's what I wanted to say.
All right, thank you. I believe that's all the people I have that want to speak on this, but if I missed one, please let me know right now. We can have you up here. Seeing no one else wants. Oh, yeah, come on up, yeah. That's all right. It's only 3 minutes or less.
Okay. I'll be done in about 30 seconds.
All right.
Hi, I'm Kathy McKeon. I live on Conservancy as well. I'm right across the street from Deb. The left side of my house butts up right to the Conservancy space that we're speaking of. And I think I just wanted to reiterate, I think what all of us are feeling is just the unknown. I moved in 2000, been there the whole time. There have been quite a few changes. Originally, the space right next to my land was just started growing and filling with trees, and I'm like, oh, this is perfect. In the winter now, I don't have to see Williamsburg Way's lights. And then about 10 years ago, they clear cut it and made it a retention pond in our neighborhood. So I lost us some tree cover. And then more recently, we had to deal with the fill site and the construction last summer with the windows rattling and everything as they drove by our neighborhood, working from home. And then all of these, it seems like every few years we come across another potential issue with the land. And I think my biggest concern is, when do we just get assurances that it's not going to change? You know, why do we have to keep doing this? I don't know if it feels like it's like, oh, every 5 years, they probably moved on, everyone's switched out, let's see if we can do it again, and then make a plan to build up on that spot. I'm sure that's not the case, but it feels that way when you're there, and it seems to come up every few years. So, okay. Other than that, I think, just as Deb mentioned, I think it would be really nice to have some assurance that, particularly the land in the front part, the closer to McKee, being conservancy and not necessarily park or solar panels or anything like that. The ones farther back, we have a little less there, but I know Deb is really concerned about that space back there, particularly if it's going to be solar panels. So I guess that's it. I don't know. I have questions, I'm sure, but I can't think of them right now.
All right, perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, if that's everyone, I will close the public hearing and then open up to discussion, comments by the board, by the commission. First, I just want to clarify that this is only in relation to that red piece of property. That's what they're splitting off. That's what they're selling. The yellow, for example, can be developed at some point in time. We don't really have any say in that. Transitional agricultural section, that they would have to go through essentially rezoning to make that something else. Now, transitional agriculture, one of the options is solar. And unfortunately with solar, the city has little to no say in if a solar farm can go in or not. For example, the one just south of this off of County Highway, they worked with us at least, but we could not have said no. And that's because the energy companies have gone to the Capitol and had the laws written so that a municipality doesn't have say in something like a solar farm if it's designated something like that. I'm not going to sit here and try and guess on what it might be or not. I don't know if it's big enough for them to want to do a solar farm. I don't know how many acres that is, but this is really right now just talking about that red piece of land, and it sounds like they have someone interested in buying it. I myself do not know who that is. They have not talked to the city that I'm aware of. And so just knowing that, I would say that they're not going to do anything that's not already approved for that site. Because if they are wanting to change that to something else, they really should talk to the city, because they might have some bad news if they come in and want to change it to something else and that isn't approved in whatever is in that is one of the options in that right now. And so it could be a number of different things. And you know, whoever it is that wants to do that, well, they have to, again, come to us with the plans, whatever they want to do, whatever they're going to put on it, and get approval from us. And we'll do much like we do for a lot of things and make sure that they have dark sky lighting and all those things that are appropriate for that land. So I know that it's part of a broader plan and a broader picture, but this is really focusing on that red lot for now. So hopefully that helps a little bit anyway. Questions, comments from people? Rich?
Did they have a neighborhood meeting?
I don't know. Do you know if you had a neighborhood meeting? Yeah.
I was informed by Thermo Fisher that they had reached out to the neighborhood, but there was not actually a neighborhood meeting held.
Okay, yeah, that could have cleared up a lot of this, I think.
Ed?
Deanna, can you kind of go over what materially is changing from what the plans were previously to what we're looking at now? That seems to be a big question that people have too.
Well, okay, so that's, what is materially changing from what has been approved on this site officially is really nothing. It's really what is terms of, there's not a change in the zoning. There's not a change in the future land use map. All that's really is triggered here is the request to divide up the parcel, to create the 7-acre parcel. Under the CDP requirements, it's kind of an overall land planning process so that the city doesn't have a piece cut off here and a piece cut off here, and there's more of a systematic overall planning process. At this point, this is what we know is in the future. Anything that changes out there in terms of the existing zoning or a new use will have to, as Mayor said, will have to come back to Plan Commission. We'll have to come back for approvals. So if that kind of sums up that, Ed, and then there's been quite a bit of referral back to the Arrowhead redevelopment plan, and that Arrowhead plan had several different options in it, and many of them with a much higher scale of development in terms of the numbers of buildings, the amount of parking ramps, and including a fire station that is not being proposed at this particular time. Really what's being proposed here is kind of the status quo for most of the property with the potential of creating the 7-acre parcel. Does that make sense?
Thanks. So nothing really is changing here then from the plans that we already had on the books. It's just we're at a point where one of these parcels is planned to be developed as
Pretty much.
as originally planned. Okay. Thanks.
I have a follow-up question. For the Park and Conservancy piece, will that be changed? Like once something is designated Park and Conservancy, can that be later developed?
Very unlikely, because in the comprehensive plan, the future land use, in the future land use map, it is classified as Park Recreation Conservancy. So that, I couldn't imagine at any point in my lifetime that would get changed.
Okay, Randy, do you want to?
Just as a follow-up of that change, if there could be a change, would have to come before this body, correct? And then ultimately City Council.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, sir.
Just wanted to clarify. Yeah. Thank you.
And have to have a very good reason why it should not be Park Conservancy,
Absolutely.
which I'm not going to speak for what people at the Planning Commission at the time will think about that.
Aaron, I have a question.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Zach. Sorry.
Yeah, so on this map that you have up right now, it says parcel will remain I-S or follow the City of Fitchburg future land use map. What is I-S? I guess I'm a little lost on that one.
Sure thing. So I-S is the current zoning. It refers to the current zoning of those lands, which is specialized industrial.
Okay, so in the future land use map, it says business, but on here it's industrial specialized use.
It is right now. The future land use map has a slightly different set of classifications. The business under the future land use map is compatible with IS, or that could be potentially rezoned to a different business district. But this is not a rezoning at this time.
All right. Ed?
And then the parcel that's zoned ag transitional, what is that in the long-term plan?
In the long term, well, so the current zoning of that portion of the parcel is ag transitional. And what that means in terms of what can happen on that property right now under the current zoning is livestock raising, agricultural uses, farm operations, perhaps specialty crops, and then Mayor did mention the potential for a solar farm. But right now, there's a very small set of uses that can occur on that property as currently zoned, agricultural.
So, but what is it planned for going forward in the Arrowhead plan?
It is planned for office warehouse development on the
Okay.
northern part.
So it would be anticipated that that will likely rezone at some point, unlike the Park and Conservancy, which
It's
is
certain-
unlikely to rezone.
It's certainly possible. I couldn't say whether or not it will or not.
I do know too that we were looking at that parcel and it does present a lot of problems with setbacks and everything else. So as of right now, I know that the public is concerned about trees and what was cut down for the fill site. There are no more trees coming down. There's no more changes. There's green grass growing in there now. As of right now, Thermo Fisher has no further plans. They have talked about solar, potentially with renewable energy by 2050. I did an assessment on their lands as to what was available immediately, what would be available in 10 years, what would never be available. This parcel was considered, but there's no further movement at this point for the foreseeable future. So it is strictly just the red parcel that they're looking to sell to a potential buyer.
I think ideally someone like the county would come in and say that they're interested in buying the transitional agriculture and the Park and Conservancy from them, and then you know it's always that. But we gotta get the county to come forward with some money for that. Maybe that's a separate topic though. Other questions, comments? Rich? No. Okay.
Do we have to read the conditions into the report today, or
Well,
just state
someone
the 7?
Just a 7, like we do for everything else. Yeah. No. All right. Seeing nothing, does someone like to do a motion?
Yeah, I'll move approval of CDP for Thermo Fisher with the 7 conditions as noted by staff.
I'll second it.
Sent by Randy. All in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. All right, that is approved. Thank you. All right, next up is ADR on 2456 County Highway MM. Is the applicant here for this item? Welcome. All right, can you tell us what you're planning on doing here?
Pardon?
Yeah, if you could just run us through the project and what you're planning on doing, that'd be great.
Certainly. Dan Forler is the owner of the property and owns B&B Restoration. They are a masonry restoration contractor. And we are asking for approval to build 2 new buildings that will help facilitate his growing business. One of the buildings will be primarily used for storage of materials and vehicles, which is adhering to the current zoning requirement for this property. The second building would be used for field operations and safety and training operations as well. That was basically it.
That's it? Okay.
Yep.
Can you do a staff report, please?
I certainly can. This is 2456 County Highway MM. And the applicant is requesting approval of an ADR for 2 new 1-story commercial buildings. Building A will be approximately 112 feet by 60 feet, and Building B will be approximately 110 feet by 40 feet. The development would also include some new asphalt paving and bioretention. This property is located predominantly in a residential area. The future land use map does not include this parcel within a future neighborhood planning area. Therefore, the future development of this parcel is going to be limited. I realize I left something off there. The original application proposed 2 buildings, one of which would have had 4 new tenants. I brought the to the attention of the applicant that this was not possible under the rezone and conditional use permit granted in 1994. That conditional use permit was granted to allow a contractor's office, shop, and yard, and staff believes that the current business, B&B Quality Building Restoration, is consistent with the original CUP. However, staff believes that it is not possible to add any additional businesses on this site. So the project was revised and brought forward to Plan Commission with just the one B&B Quality Building Restoration to remain consistent with the original CUP. So staff recommends approval of this ADR with the following 12 conditions. So.
All right. Questions, comments from Plan Commission? That's it all. No one? No problems. You're okay with it? And it looks like you might want to say something.
No, I was just going to comment that the second condition is that no other business or tenant is allowed to occupy the site or property, which I think covers the concerns, and the applicant understands that, so I'm good with it.
Yeah, I don't know that looks like, based on what I first saw, they've added a little bit of stone or brick or something to the front of the building, which I think helps to make it look just a little bit nicer since it is very close to some residential.
That's exactly right. We added some masonry and changed the color scheme a little bit to be more consistent with a residential feel.
Great. All right. If there's nothing else, then someone wants to do a motion.
I'll move approval of ADR for 2456 County Highway MM with the 12 conditions as noted by staff.
Second.
Seconded by Randy. All in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. All right, that's approved.
Very good.
Thank you.
Very good.
All right,
Thank you.
Good to hear that you're expanding.
Thanks.
All right, next up is ADR for 2951 Treverton Pike, Liliana's. I know we've got a few people here. Come on up.
How's it going?
Good, how are you?
To see you guys in person, in the flesh. How's it going? We're not even Zooming right now.
No. Real life.
So, for those that don't know me, my name is Chef Dave, and I've owned that building, or been in that building for 15 years now, and it was named after my firstborn. We opened on their first birthday, but they don't go by that name anymore. They go by Ali, and so it felt kind of shitty. Can I say shitty? I'm gonna say shitty. It felt kind of shitty to have their dead name up on my restaurant. So we're actually gonna be rebranding our whole restaurant, and we're actually gonna be putting, I don't know if you guys know this, but there was a pandemic. It was totally awesome for restaurants. We all did super great. But in that we had we've kind of found out kind of dining has changed, how people want to dine has changed. There have been a lot of changes to our neighborhood. We opened in 2007 when times were booming, and then in 2009 we had that tiny little recession. We had to completely change our restaurant around to be more accommodating, but then we kind of lost what I was passionate about, which was the fine dining part of food. So what we're looking at doing is splitting our restaurant in two. You'll see that kind of darkened area right now is a west patio that we have that I think we've had a total of 40 customers sit on the entire time we've owned the building, because it faces a funeral home, so and a parking lot, which I don't know not many people are like, yay, let's go to the funeral home parking lot place. So so we're looking at redoing that, having our own separate, that'll be its own separate entranceway, and a little bit of storage, and then interior, the current bar area of Liliana's, we're looking at redoing and turning into Ollie's, and then the northern part that's our dining room, and that kind of entryway area that we're putting in, that'll be called St. Charles Station, so that I can finally have all my restaurants named after my kids again. So that's what we're doing. And it's gonna be super cool, and no one knows about it, so all 39 people watching this on TV right now, shh. Could be 50. Could be 50.
All right. You want to do a staff report, please?
So, 2951 Triverton Pike, and that's Liliana's. The proposed development will add approximately 1,000 square feet and remodel approximately 1,800 square feet of the existing restaurant. The project will also include exterior renovations, which you'll see in your packet. The interior renovations will also allow Chef Dave to elevate his restaurant to fine dining. No additional seating is proposed, and the expansion is located on existing pavement, so there's no impact to the current impervious surface ratio. The limited addition is unlikely to have any negative impacts on neighboring properties, traffic, or parking. The proposed exterior renovation is consistent with the previously approved ADR. Therefore, staff recommends approval with the following 9 conditions.
All right. Questions, comments? Rich?
I didn't see any cut sheets for the lighting. Is it all ADA dark sky compliant?
Yeah, we're actually reducing the amount of lighting on the exterior of the building. So currently, there are a bunch of those horrible sodium phosphate or sodium something, salt lights that shine down, and they're super bright and obnoxious and cold white, and we're actually eliminating all of that side lighting. So all of the lighting that we are doing, we're actually eliminating side lighting. So there'll be even less lighting than there currently is in our parking lot.
And you're going to be closed for a while while you do this?
Well, no, so we figured we made it through 2 years of just takeout and patio, so what's another 6 months? So we're actually going to be closing down the dining room and bar area, and as soon as patio season starts, so we're hoping to start construction early to mid-June when the patios are good, and then hopefully be able to finish the construction by the time the snow comes, so like August, who knows, who knows?
And say hi to Brian for me.
I absolutely will, thank you.
Thanks.
Other?
And then one other thing too, we're not actually adding any seating capacity, and we're not modifying. I know one of the concerns someone had brought up was like sprinklers, because we're not sprinklered right now, but we're not changing our seating capacity. We're actually lowering it, and we're renovating less than 50% of the space. So I thought I'd just bring it up, be clear with you guys. I'm not trying to sneak anything in.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Okay. I know you've been a great part of the community and really appreciate all you've done. So it's good to see as you're evolving and continuing to invest in the community.
We love Fitchburg, man. My family's been here now since Ali was 1 year old. So we've been here 14 years, and I grew up here. So I love the city, and I'll be here forever. And Little John's is doing great things, too. Kept that in Fitchburg.
Absolutely.
See, love you guys. All of you, even if you're not from Fitchburg.
Anything else, or someone do a motion?
I'll motion.
All right, Rainey.
Motion to approve ADR 2951 Treverton Pike, Liliana's.
Second.
With the 9 conditions.
Second.
Sent it by Emily. All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Was one of the conditions that you guys all get like a free gift card? I didn't see the condition.
No.
Is that what it was? I knew it.
Unfortunately, that'd be unethical. Unfortunately.
Oh.
All right, thanks, Dave. All right, next up, D, the comprehensive development plan request for the Hartung site.
To read in.
I'm going to recuse on this item.
All right, is recusing. All right, whenever you got your stuff ready, go ahead.
Do introductions, I'll get things pulled up here. All right, Jonathan Stevens with Sarah Investment Real Estate. And Brian Munson with Vanderwall, who I believe y'all know. So we're presenting a CDP this evening for the Hartung's land over at the intersection of Lacey and High Farm Road, roughly, Blaney Road.
All right.
So.
Well, thank you, and good evening to everyone again. Glad to be here to talk about some of the early stages of the design and development of the Hartung Brothers property. This is a site we've been talking with city staff and elected officials for quite some time, trying to find the right fit. And just as Jonathan noted, here is kind of our location at the southeast corner of Lacey and Haight Farm. A little bit closer, you can see, some of the existing conditions with the Hartung facility in the southwest corner of the site, the creek and wetland complex that moves through the site, and then some of the existing plan recommendations. And that's really where we started, in that the first piece we did is look at what does the plan call for, and how does that relate and transition to the geography of the site. And so the CDP in front of you tonight really is that first step towards seeking zoning in the future for the site that would implement the recommendations of the adopted plan. And this is what it starts to look like in physical form. So what we're looking at here is between 450 and 500 apartments and 20,000 square feet of commercial space, coupled up with the primary driver of the site being between 500 and 600,000 square feet of potential future employment, ranging from medical technology, office, and some logistics components on the site. So really building up from the concepts of the adopted plan and placing that into the site itself. The other aspect of the site really falls in two directions, and that is the existing Hartung facility, which will stay in place and stay in operation as part of the development of the site. So you can see a majority of the southwest corner will remain as is, with the only changes really being focused on how that is accessed. The final piece of the site is the open space components. And again, as recommended in the adopted neighborhood plan, we have significant buffers along the native habitat areas, including buffers adjacent to the farm wetlands in the northeast corner and the northwest corner of the site. So all in all, delivering an open space system that we look forward to working with the community on how to design that, but we see that as an outdoor room that would serve both trail connections in the future for the region, as well as residents and employees of this site. So we're excited to have that open space be a really critical component of the walking space of this neighborhood. And so, as I said, we're here for really the first step, and that's the comprehensive development plan, trying to implement the goals of the adopted neighborhood plan. We will be working through the process over the coming months, which includes a rezoning application. I would also note that we have a neighborhood meeting scheduled for May 4th, so we look forward to having additional conversations with the neighbors. But again, we're at the front end, so we're happy to be here tonight to answer any questions you might have, and look forward to continuing the dialogue over the course of the coming months.
All right, thank you. Staff report, please.
So Brian did very well and covered all the high points. The one thing that did kind of come up in some of the staff discussions very early on was the buffers from the wetlands. So the McGaw neighborhood plan delineates a 75-foot buffer from the wetlands on the northwest portion of the site and a 300-foot buffer from the wetlands on the south branch of Swan Creek, which was to the southeast of the site. You can see the wetland complex and then Swan Creek. We've worked through that, and throughout the wetland complex to the southeast, there is a minimum of a 200-foot buffer with an average buffer of 337 feet. This recognizes the fact that the northern portion of those wetlands, as Brian mentioned, were farmed. And so staff feels that the proposed buffers accomplish the goals of the neighborhood plan, the McGaw neighborhood plan. The other note that I will just bring out, there's things to be determined down the road in the future, and that would be establishing a connection between Lacey Road and Nobel Drive. That's not something that we can really dive into at this particular point with the existing Hartung facility. So staff recommends approval of the CDP with 7 conditions.
All right. Then I will now open the public hearing piece to this. And first I have Chad Fedler who'd like to speak.
Good evening. My name is Chad Fedler. I am here on behalf of Gold Leaf Development and the Addison Apartments. I also oversee our development work, and the Prairie Lake Shopping Center in Sun Prairie is what I do as far as my daily routine, if you will. I'm not really opposed to what is being brought here. There needs to be more than just support or oppose. There should be like a neutral. But what I would like to do is offer some points of consideration for the Plan Commission. And the first is maybe consider the commercial retail that's being proposed in the northwest corner to be located near the roundabouts off of Lacey, mainly for visibility and easy customer access. The other part would be to have all office and or all single family along Cyene Road. Maybe move the multifamily component of this into the center of the development off of Haight Road, where it's shown as office in that area. And the reason for this is separation. With our experience, we have found it to be wise for all property owners to have some degree of separation from other multifamily developments. The reasons for this would be, the first, to create each property's own identity and feel. The second is to protect one's property and thereby its tenants from any potential contagion. I couldn't think of what other word I wanted to bring up in that situation, but the reason for that is, should another property have financial difficulties somewhere down the road, or management issues that could blight neighboring multifamily and residential developments. So, when financial conditions have been great, like they have been really since about 2012, 2008 seems to be long, long ago, it's easy to overlook the possibilities of not everything works out the way it was intended long-term. And, we feel that if there's some separation, that this is just sound planning and, in my opinion, provides potentially good outcomes for all parties involved, including the community. The other thing, it is my understanding that the city would like to see more single-family and business development take place, and maybe it would be worth considering conditioning the multifamily approvals to the office, business, single-family occupancy to maintain a healthy balance between all of the different categories that are at play here. Thank you.
Thank you. I also have Steve Arnold who'd like to speak on this one.
Thank you. Steve Arnold, 2530 Targhee Street. When I served on the Common Council, I chaired the neighborhood plan ad hoc committee for the McGaw neighborhood. And so I'm pretty familiar with the neighborhood plan, which calls for the potential for future commuter rail, both in the uptown area at the northwest quadrant of Central Park Place and the railroad tracks, and here at the southeast quadrant of Lacey Road and Cyene Road and the railroad tracks. Now, I've often said that we'll get commuter rail once we have a new legislature, a new governor, and regional transit authorities. And right now, we only have one of those, but the long-term planning should permit commuter rail at that location. And I've not looked at this before tonight, but it appears not to. It appears that there's detention ponds or natural waterways and bike paths separating the developed area. So I would very much like that future use reserved and planned for, even though it could be decades off, because you don't get a resource like a railroad, and you must protect it just like we're protecting the future rail on the Badger State Trail. So I would like to see this CD, Comprehensive Development Plan, CDP, modified to recognize that portion of the neighborhood plan and reserve it for the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, I've got a few other people here. John McKenzie is registered in support and available for questions. I have Donald Hartung registering in support. I have Patrick Cheney registering in opposition. With the comments opposed, the Plan Commission needs to consider the number of acres being developed annually. Fitchburg set a maximum rolling average of 75 acres per year for development. The Plan Commission and Council need these recent yearly numbers of acres and acres proposed for this current year before approving this as another new development. Fitchburg went from a town to a city to not be like Madison, to retain our rural farm atmosphere. But with this, as with other proposals, here goes another cornfield. As more and more development reaches further south, the Plan Commission should review the FUDA and USA maps and all relevant maps along with the McGaw Area Master Plan. Just because another developer option on another field is Fitchburg ready for more. The Planning Department should create a map of all apartment buildings, starting with this area of South Saline Road and all along from Central Park Place and past East Lacey Road. Mark number of apartment units per each building. Check how many are in the area now. Several years ago, the apartment numbers here exceeded 1,500 and is likely over 2,000 now. How fast does Fitchburg want to mimic Madison's landscape of apartment buildings? Parkland and fee in lieu of parkland dedication needs revision to reflect current values. This proposal has mention of a public outreach meeting on May 4th. No details yet. Please provide all details locally and citywide and to myself as president of the East Fitchburg Neighborhood Association so I can announce this meeting to all EFNA membership. Also, I got an email from Sue Seehafer. I am opposed to the development of said property. We do not want more of this development, making traffic even more of a problem. It's the same old concept with no affordable houses with yards, street, trees that we need for CO2 sequestration. There's way too much impervious surface already. Fitchburg Road and Saline are getting congested. I've lived here nearly 40 years and came to Fitchburg to get out of Madison because of its open green spaces and rural character. We are the people that help Fitchburg grow. Now we can't afford to live here and certainly not buy these expensive homes, condos, or apartments. And frankly, Fitchburg cannot maintain the roads, parks, and other venues it has now. Maintenance is abysmal and will only get worse. Taxpayers should not have to subsidize another project which we do need. It's not like it's going to be a quaint city with interesting shops to visit either. Lastly, the powers in charge don't seem to be able to say no to developers and keep them in line. And I believe that's all I have for public comments on this one. So I will close the public hearing, but open it up to questions, comments from Plan Commission. Yeah, Rainey.
I guess first of all, I appreciate that you're respecting the buffers for the wetlands and so forth. It's important. I think it's important to all of us, but important to me as well. But this isn't the second. This is the second time around that I've seen this plan. I thought and I think at the time I expressed that I was in favor of a transit access to the rail. Was that not on a future or a former site plan that I saw?
Yes. To speak
why
to
that was removed?
the way the plan is put together, this is a map from the McGaw neighborhood, and the transit station falls just slightly north of the Hartung existing facility. Given the timing that we're anticipating the Hartung facility being here, as well as previously mentioned, the timing it could take to get a train here, what we are proposing is that transit station, as shown in blue, the dot, but the light blue is the box that is TS, which is transit station, actually falls within that Hartung facility. So from the standpoint of timing and the availability to have that in the future, should the city determine that's in their goals, that's not precluded by this. So that is, again, preserved by that site being in remaining use. And I believe one of the staff conditions was that, in the event that the Hartung facility was to be redeveloped, that would be a discussion point that needed to happen at that time. So we're certainly respecting that in the plan and reserve that space in the future should that need arise.
All right, very good. Thank you for the clarification.
Other questions or comments? Yeah, Emily.
I really appreciate that clarification on the transit. But the one thing that concerns me is, if it's like 10 years from now, 20 years from now, the prices will have gone up, most likely for the land. And so then it kind of puts the city in a position where we'll have to pay a lot more for it if we want to develop that as transit.
I'll just say it follows, I really appreciate that it does follow the plans that have been in place for quite a while now. I think we see that sometimes where people come in and want to do something completely different. And it's hard to, when we're planning, to have that happen, I think is a challenge. And I know that there is a lot of demand for, well, apartments, unfortunately, but not that apartments are terrible. I just like single-family housing or more of that as well. But this is a transit-oriented neighborhood, and so unfortunately, it leads to more of the higher density development that we have in something like Uptown. But I'm really excited about the potential for new businesses to be able to come to Fitchburg. We have a lack of bigger properties available for businesses to come in, and we do get requests from businesses looking to relocate to say, okay, what kind of larger pieces do you have? And there's not a lot of those in Fitchburg right now. And so to be able to provide this as an option for those businesses, I think is a great advantage. There's great visibility to Highway 14, which I think is very attractive for those businesses. And, you know, the Lacey Road is right there and goes right to that interchange. So I'm happy about, I really love that part. I'm excited about that. And this is something that is already in the urban service area and has been planned for development for a while. And so it's only natural that this would be an area that was planned to be developed and is going to be developed over a period of time, obviously, because Hartung isn't going away anytime soon. So. Stephen.
Question for city staff: since most of this property on the future land use map is designated for TOD, transit-oriented development, can you walk us through what is that original intent for that?
Mixed use, high density, residential, commercial, retail, office, more of like a downtown kind of feel.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions or comments? Rich?
The housing comments we've heard, it's like a chicken and the egg thing, because in order to attract business, we want to have the housing, and in order to they go back and forth. But I looked at the Zimmerman's housing study from 2018 earlier today, and we've already, at that time, we were among our peers, had one of the highest percentages of renters of all the peer communities. I think that this will soon be passed, but I think as a group, we need to get together and start really just talking outside of these issues of how do we want to address this so that we can be all on the same page.
Yeah, I don't want to get too off topic. But I think in my budget right now, we have plans to start neighborhood planning for both South Storm Prairie and Greenfield, which is just south of this. And I think as we develop those neighborhood plans, that's a big thing we have to factor in, is that we're over 50% of housing units in the city are apartments right now. And we're the only community in Dane County that's in that situation. And what I hear from residents is there is a concern about where that balance is. And I think as we develop those neighborhood plans, we need to make sure that there's a lot of that ownership opportunity available to balance that back out.
And my point is, it's not to be put on their shoulders.
Right.
That's something, what we have to deal with, and not say that this is what we want you guys to solve for us.
Yep. Stephen?
This is going to be a repeat question that we had from the first CDP. What is it again that we are approving in the CDP process? Does it hold them to where buildings are located? Because I know we're obviously going to go through probably GIP, SIP. So can you just make sure that we're all clear on what we're approving here?
Sure thing. So we're approving the CDP, and it's the overall framework and guidelines for the next stages of the rezoning with the GIP and the SIP. So when they submit for GIP, I'm going to go back to the approved CDP and make sure everything is in line and consistent. As for the exact location of the buildings, that could shift a little bit, but when we're talking about the overall amount of square footage, the general road layout, the general mix of units, that's what you're approving. The exact footprint, you are not. Does that make sense? Okay.
Anyone else? Or a motion? Someone do a motion, please?
I will. Okay.
All right, Randy.
Motion to approve the Comprehensive Development Plan Request CDP-2442-22 Hartung site.
With conditions?
Yes, very good, thank you. The 7 conditions.
I'll second.
Seconded by Rich. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. And then one abstention.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, move along to E, public hearing and rezone request for the O'Briens. Is there someone here for that project?
Yes.
Oh, excellent. Hi, John.
On Zoom.
Perfect. Go
Hi,
ahead.
John Kinnear,
Yeah, we
President
can.
with Redwood Corporation, here representing Edgewood College.
All right. You can go ahead and tell us what you're doing here.
Yes, we're applying today for a rezoning request of 40.8 acres on Lacey Road and Seminole Highway. This property is currently zoned AX, exclusive agriculture. We're applying today for rezoning to PR, Park and Recreation, for several reasons that we can get into in a little bit. The work to date, we've been before you to ask that we are allowed to submit to CARPC and DNR. Early March, we received approvals from CARPC and the DNR and have been included in the urban service area. So progress is being made, and we appreciate your support in the beginning of that process. We're back here today now that we're included in the urban service area to begin our approvals process with the city of Fitchburg for the development. First step being the rezoning. We're rezoning to Park and Recreation because of the natural features that are on site. Over 13 acres of wetland are being preserved. We do have over 50% open space. As a conditional use in the future, the recreation wellness building and the baseball, softball fields, track and field throwing events, tennis courts, athletic field lighting, all that will come before you as a conditional use in the future. So again, our first step here is to get the zoning so that we can pursue working with city staff on next steps in the future down the line, and look forward to continuing our application process. One item on just the site details is this is 40.8 acres. It's currently lot 2 of the O'Brien subdivision, O'Brien Flats subdivision plat. I'll be available here for any questions that come up after staff report.
All right, thank you. Staff report, please.
John did very well. I'll just reiterate that Edgewood College, and I'm sure you've all seen this at least a couple of times, is proposing a campus of recreation with soccer fields, tennis courts, storage, buildings, indoor support and training facilities. And what we're doing today, what the proposal is to rezone from the current zoning, which is exclusive agriculture, to the park and recreation zone. Given the intensity of the recreational uses, and John also mentioned the significant portion of the site that will be for wetlands and out recreation, the staff recommends approval of the rezone. And I'll just say one other thing, they will have to come back for a conditional use permit under that zoning district. So staff recommends approval of the rezone request with 6 conditions.
I'll open the public hearing, and I do not have anyone for the public on this one, unless I'm wrong. Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing though and open it up to question comments from commissioners. Just kind of goes along with what we have expected, I think. Ed?
John, can you talk a little more about the plans for stormwater management? I think that's one of the really, to the city, one of the very important aspects of this project.
Sure. I'd be happy to. And going through CARPC and the DNR review for inclusion in the urban service area, We did also collaborate with Dane County with their new stormwater requirements. We've assured and calculated and provided preliminary calculations showing that we will be meeting the new Dane County stormwater ordinance. We do have on the north side of the site, the means of stormwater management that we're proposing, a wet pond that's going to treat the hard surfaces. That's going to be the parking and drives, the areas that have active traffic. The fields themselves are going to be stormwater management devices. Below the synthetic turf surface is an open stone, open graded base that's going to manage and meter water that lands on those fields themselves. And then we've calculated the current flows into the low kettle area, which is the wetland area on the site, and have factored that into our calculations as well. We'll be using those rates of flow to calculate what should be planted. Right now it's farmed wetlands or soybeans in the wetland area. That area will be planted with native species that are going to work with the stormwater that is sent to that area. There's a significant off-site area of note that does flow onto the site. We will be treating that as well for peak flow and for TSS. So having gone through the CARPC review and the DNR review and have had those preliminary wetland discussions and stormwater discussions with the DNR and Dane County, we feel very confident that we've addressed stormwater and we'll be looking at those details in the next steps of our more detailed design.
Thanks.
Other questions, comments at all? Not seeing anyone. Someone can do a motion then.
I'll move to approve the rezone request 2442-22 with the 6 conditions as noted by staff.
Second.
Sent by Emily. All in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. All right, that is approved. Next up.
Thank you.
Thank you. F, G, and H are all related. It looks like H is being withdrawn. Is someone here to speak to this? Come on up and tell us what's going on here with this project. If you want to speak to all of them now, you can.
Okay.
Versus, the rezone and CSR are different. Yeah.
Sure. So my name is Brian Bollier, and with Edge Consulting. So we're preparing the design documents and the rezoning request and the certified survey, helping getting all those documents prepared and ready for submittal here and approval. And the overall idea of the project is coming out of a CDP that was prepared by Payne and Dolan at the end of last year and approved by the city that shows the creation of 2 lots from the Payne and Dolan property that's on the south side of Cottonwood Drive, close to where the Military Ridge State Trail intersects Cottonwood. And out of their large parcel, General Beverage is working with them to try to buy a 7.5 acre lot in the northwest corner where it fronts along Cottonwood. And so the rezoning request and the certified survey map request are to create that lot, rezone it to IG to allow for a warehousing as a permitted use that would then allow General Beverage to expand their current operations at their McKee facility. They'd be able to build a new warehouse and at this Cottonwood Drive facility in the future. So the ADR was withdrawn due to a late change in how they were going to proceed. They were going to kind of take a different first step that it'll require the ADR to be submitted at a later date because I know the ADR is only good for 1 year, and so we want to get that so that the stuff that we're showing you that would be built would actually be built in that 1 year time frame. So that's the reason why that ADR is withdrawn at this time. So.
All right. Staff report, please.
Well, I'll just focus on the rezone and the CSM, and up on the screen you'll see the lot 2 will be rezoned to general industrial, and then lot 1, these are both new, lot 1 and 2, will just remain in the rural development district. So staff recommends I should step back a little bit. Lot 1 is a flag lot, and so they have requested a waiver that would need to be approved by council, and that was included in your packet. So staff recommends approval of the rezone with 5 conditions. And if you want to just take that one first.
Well, you can do
Okay.
both.
Okay, and then staff also recommends approval of the certified survey map with the 15 conditions.
All right. I will open the public hearing and have John, who's here to speak. Come on up, John.
Hello, I'm John Paul. I represent Midwest Decorative Stone. I have a lot or property adjacent to the lot that we're discussing right now. I just have a few concerns like we did originally 6 months ago with the CDP. It was actually partly the flag lot and the driveway coming off of that. I'm not really concerned about the rezone. It's going to turn into industrial. We all know that, so that's not a problem. It's just what's going to happen behind the lot that's currently developed and where the driveway and all that access is going. Our lot currently is adjacent. Our driveway is basically a butt. We have a throughway from McKee Road all the way to Cottonwood. In the past, 25 years ago when we located there, Cottonwood didn't go through. We had to have that lot go through. We shared it with Payne and Dolan for a while till Cottonwood came through. As we built up our property, we couldn't really shift our driveway at all, so we had to keep it where it is. At one point, we did ask if we could move it. I think staff said no 25 years ago. I'm not sure what the reason was at that point, but at this point, we can't move it. Now my main concern is there's going to be not just this lot going in, but several other potential lots going in and other property and development going on that's going to use this flag lot drive and spill on, basically coming through Cottonwood and using our access to get on to McKee as a quick throughway. I'm very concerned about that because we actually, on our drive, use that as actually part of our sales yard. So there's people walking around through that area as well. And in times already where we've had construction on Commerce Park and people couldn't make a direct line down that way, they'd come through and use actually our drive to cut through, even though we've posted it and did other things to keep people from coming through. So my main concern right now is once this gets approved, if this drive isn't offset or there's some type of way of shifting it, and this turns into a road in the future, it's basically going to be a throughway, and our drive becomes the road to McKee Road. And I don't know how to do that unless we start putting up barriers and we start having to police and we look like the bad guys to everybody cutting through, because all you're going to be doing is yelling at the people cutting through, and it becomes a big problem. So when we were here the last time, one of our ideas or suggestions was to offset that access point, at least so somebody would have to turn, and once they turn, they won't use it as a throughway. And right now, I know Payne and Dolan is using that access, but I think that there's a way of working with it where they just put a little jag in it or do something. I know it's a flag lot, it's not the perfect situation, but once you approve this lot going in, that flag lot or that drive is going to be a permanent situation, and there's really no going back to change that. So I think that's important to consider when you guys are looking at this CSM and everything else that's involved with this.
Yeah.
The other thing is, and the other thing is too is the drainage.
John, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I need to cut you off. It's over 3 minutes. It's
Okay.
quite a bit over.
All right.
I'm
No
sorry.
problem.
I hate this part.
No, I realize it. All
All
right,
right,
thank you.
very much. That is the only person I believe I have that wants to speak on this, so I can close the public hearing and open up to questions, comments from Plan Commission. Steven?
I guess the question would be, when whatever approval we took last time when this was brought up, same concern was raised. I remember you, and I believe it was your wife that was here. Yep. If I remember right, there was going to be some kind of offline conversations from that. Obviously, we've had staff turnover since then, but do we have any idea, was there any kind of a meeting since then? Because it feels like the exact same request, and it's a very logical, reasonable one from a neighboring property owner. And so I want to know, has anything happened since that last discussion that we were all privy to?
I was not part of that, but I'm so new. I know that Public Works has worked closely with Payne and Dolan and worked on the easements and made sure that the CSM would have sufficient space, but honestly, this is new to me. Sorry.
Are you aware of any discussions you've had on trying to prevent that?
Not to offset that driveway. I guess we were trying not to touch Payne and Dolan's driveway at all. And I mean, the access for the general beverage development, as we'd have it, would go right onto Cottonwood. We wouldn't be using the Payne and Dolan driveway at all. I definitely know the long-term plan is for that 80-foot corridor, which is on the flagpole part of the lot there, is definitely planned to be a public street in the future that would extend further down into Lot 1. And in terms of the intersection where it hits Cottonwood, I mean, I don't know if that becomes where the dominant movement is to the east, and it's, you know, you try to force everybody to the east in terms of moving cars through that area as a throughway and stop condition to the west. I mean, I think there could be ways to try to, you know, make that the dominant movement. But in terms of right now, I guess if we shrink that Lot 2 at all, that kind of sends things back to the drawing board and might, I guess, I don't know if that's going to be, I don't know when things would maybe move forward. I guess if we don't get this much land, General Beverage has indicated they need this much land to be able to be viable. Otherwise, it's going to be, they're going to have to look at another spot. So that's where we're trying to get the site that's viable and fits with how the site's being used now, that we're not going to impact that driveway, and that in the future that becomes a public street. In terms of that intersection there with Cottonwood, you know, I feel like there could be some ways to offset the potential for people cutting through private property.
Yeah, I guess that'd be my comment, is that before anything gets built, they have to come back again, and it needs to be addressed, because it is a very legitimate concern, and if it's not addressed, then to me, in this next round of approvals, then there's going to be problems. And so I don't know what that solution is. I'm not going to try and solve it right here, right now, but I think that's something to bring back to, you know, your people you work with, and maybe, you know, Deanna, you can reach out as well, because I think that's a very legitimate concern and something that needs to be addressed as this comes forward for the next thing, because I agree that it's not fair or right that the other business would all of a sudden be the road through there. And so whatever we can do to have no impact on them, I think we need to try and accompany in it. So that's my thoughts anyway. We'll open up to other people. Ed?
Maybe you can meet with them and
There you go.
maybe you can meet with them and see if you can kind of plan for the future with regard to how that road would go.
Yeah, I guess we probably had to get with Public Works, I guess, also, because I would imagine that being a public street would get designed and bid out as part of a city municipal project, right? So I guess trying to get their input, I guess, also on how to avoid, I guess, how to discourage people cutting through private property.
Yeah, just make sure you loop them in when you're moving forward in those conversations. Yeah.
And we do have a development team that meets and brings people in, and Mike is on it, and Deanna, and some other city staff, and they actually talk about things like this, and issues and concerns, and the right solution. And so I think it's Mondays they meet, and they bring people in, and so we can get you on that, I would think, as well. That might be a great idea to have you come in and speak with staff a little bit as well. If you know Mike Zimmerman in the back, he or Deanna, either one can help you out with that. And so that'd be a great option as well. And I think, you know, involving maybe the folks from Midwest Stone as well? Tuesdays, okay, sorry. It's Tuesday afternoon. We'll be in touch.
I think the problem needs to be resolved before we get to the next step.
Yeah.
I think that, don't want to see the Midwest Stone be relying on us doing the right thing next time and next time. I think we should just stop now, send everybody back and get this all worked out so there is a solution so that we don't say that it'll be taken care of the next time. We'll have it taken care of when the next time it's up for approval.
I guess, is that about the rezoning and the CSM you're talking? I mean, can we add this as a condition that has to be met before the city would sign the CSM and before the?
If you guys can work something out, I'd be happy. I'm not gonna, I don't know how we would put that in.
As a condition would be
But
a
that
great
would be
option.
actually entered into the rezone request then as a 7th item or a 5th item or whatever, 6th. Is that something we could do here? Do you know how you would want that worded?
We can get close. Other thoughts or questions at all? Rainey?
I mean, I just echo the same concerns that everybody else has. I mean, this has come around twice. I remember it from plan and I remember it from council. So we do, as Rich stated, we don't want to see this continuing to each time this comes before this body to say, well, we're going to take this approach and nothing happens. Yeah, we need to resolve this issue for Midwest. So
I think adding as a condition and
Yeah.
maybe it's, I don't know what the best way is, if it's to, the city can't sign it until that's figured out or
Yeah.
solved or what. Yeah.
I think what I would like to do is add yet another condition on the CSM, and we will say, staff and applicant to resolve concerns of Midwest Stone prior to, signing the CSM. Does that work?
Is that acceptable to Midwest Stone?
I would think so.
As long as we can work something out, I don't want to say,
Right.
have them say that we tried, and, I find something, they say put in a speed bump or something, that wouldn't be acceptable, I guess.
I don't think it would be acceptable to, I don't want to speak for other people here, so.
Sometimes I want to see it carved in stone, before we.
No pun intended. Emily?
Is there a way that we could basically just request that this come back next time with all of these conditions worked out? Because I agree with Midwest Stone that it feels like there might be almost like too much room in the condition, and they might not get enough of what they need. That's my concern.
Yeah, I think I don't want to speak for you, but I think the concern is that it might take more than a month to figure that out. And I'm guessing there's other steps that have to happen. And I don't know, do you need the approvals tonight to move forward? I'll let you speak to that.
Yeah, I guess that was all I was looking for, is just to be able to, that it's a condition that has to be met, and that staff would have to be able to defend that they believe that condition's been met, before the city would be authorized to sign the CSM, and along with all these other conditions. So I guess if it's got to come back, if it's the only way, I guess we got to do that. But I guess I was just hoping to empower city staff to be able to, understand the issue and be confident that the way it's been resolved is defensible, and that we can move forward with this meeting with the conditional approvals.
I think we've been pretty clear that if it's not solved, we're not approving the next steps. It's a problem.
But I'm going to vote against it tonight then, based on this, until we see something hard and fast in front of us. And Lord knows, I've been a supporter of General Beverage and General Beer for decades, and I've been a supporter of Midwest Stone too. So it's like two of my favorites, but I don't want to go forward with it as it is right now.
Other thoughts, Ed?
Yeah, one concern that I would have is if the only solution is moving where that future road would go further to the west, and I don't know that it would be, but if that's the only solution, then, I mean, as you stated tonight, there's a certain amount of land that General Beverage needs to have. And if that's the only solution to it, then it's, your southern lot line that may need to be redrawn to make that work to give them enough space. So, I guess in that respect, I'd kind of like to know what the plan is also, because otherwise you may need to change your CSM, because it doesn't sound like you can really take any land away from the needs that General Beverage has.
That's right.
So I've been very sympathetic to the Midwest Stone people, but I'm also now just kind of thinking through this more. If that becomes a city street or as an access point, why is it that traffic is so pervasive through your property? Because my understanding is that you have this throughway because of you can't take a left off of your property onto PD to go west. I guess as a driver, why would I go through because it's gravel, right? Was there last spring?
No, it's, yeah.
What I'm getting at is, this doesn't seem like the best throughway as a driver to get it from where Payne and Dolan is up to PD, no matter which way I'm going, but especially, certainly not if I'm gonna go westbound on PD, but if I'm going eastbound, why would I not go over to the lighted intersection instead of driving through your property, which, like I said, I was there last spring, I thought it was mostly like, if it's like sand, gravel, or is that plowed all the way through?
It's quicker.
Asphalt
on that part, okay.
Yeah. But when they did the reconstruct in front of us on PD, they did put a little loop turn there right past the bridge as well. So you can come out our drive and actually do a 180 before you get to a Quick Trip there.
So then,
and so it's not, it wouldn't be convenient or conducive to somebody going down, in a sense, Cottonwood, or actually coming back the other way. But if you're at a T section, just going straight through makes it so much easier than going to the road, or cutting through. I guess it's a matter of convenience for people. So there's no obstacle to stop them from doing it if they're just going straight through. If it's offset, you have to make a turn, and then you got to make another turn, and then it becomes a little bit more of a problem.
Then do you need the access to Cottonwood?
Yeah, we do, because we have large trucks coming in, and we were told by Fitchburg, and we made kind of an agreement to get like semis to come in through the back, especially when the road was not brought up to specs several years ago. It's just the way we do it, and it's the best way right now. Plus, that does give us, we still don't have the left in. So,
sure.
So you still have to have access coming from the east. They have to turn at the theater and come in that way. Sure. We have basically three exit points or entry points coming in from the west, leaving and going all the way to the east, or using that little jog in the road now and heading to the west. But we still have one point that we have to have that rear drive.
Last question, just from my own understanding, off of Cottonwood, do you have is it flat, or is it like the driveway kind of skirt? You know what I mean?
Our drive comes up to the road, yeah. But then further down our property actually is lower than the road, probably by 4 or 5 feet.
I'm saying, is it like when like an apron, that's what I'm trying to say. Do you have an apron on your driveway?
No, there is just curb and gutter. I mean, it's just,
okay.
Yeah. It's really nothing more than curb and gutter right there. There's nothing to really delineate it as a private. We have a sign that says private drive, but again,
like
people will use that as a quick way to cut through. Even some of the back businesses to get to Quick Trip, because it's easier than going through the theater parking lot and stuff. Not a whole lot, but my main concern is, and Payne and Dolan's been great as far as telling the drivers and things like that, they have to go around. I'm not concerned. But once you start to develop those lots in the back and becomes a city street, who's going to actually regulate that? it becomes a very tough situation, because just in front of PDQ, or Quick Trip, we've been there so long, it's always PDQ to me. So, you guys put in that turn where you can't make a left out, and so people still make a left out of there, even though it's signed and everything else, and there's actually a little jog in there, and it makes it inconvenient. People still do what they shouldn't do unless you make it so inconvenient that they don't do it. And that's kind of what I'm saying. If the road is there and the driveway is there, they're still gonna do it, because if I wanted to go east, I'm gonna go straight right through that intersection. But if it's offset, then you wanna turn and, you know.
Yeah. All right, so I'm not sure if people want to approve the rezone and postpone CSM or add another condition on CSM. I've heard a little bit of both. Maybe postpone both, either way. I know what Rich wants. I don't know what other people want.
I'm softening my opinion, listening, so.
I don't know if someone wants to do a motion. I mean, start with the rezone request, I guess. You gotta take these separately, but.
And the rezone is to rezone Lot 2, but that lot is already created, right? Or no? The CSM will create the lot.
Correct.
Okay.
And I should, I guess, ask Deanna, is it all right if we approve the rezone but postpone the CSM? Or do you want us to do them
Well,
both
one of the
together?
conditions on the rezone will be approval of the CSM, because otherwise it doesn't exist. Yeah.
But we would have to redo, if for any reason the lot configuration changed, we would have to go back and rezone again.
That's a really good question.
Maybe it's just better to postpone, but if we're gonna
I
postpone.
think it would be best if you want to postpone the CSM, do them both.
So either a motion to approve with extra restrictions or conditions, or postpone.
I move to postpone CSM, CSM, CS 244422.
And the rezone request?
And the rezone request, RZ 2443-22.
I'll second.
Sent by Rich. All right, any further questions or comments?
Do we also want to postpone the ADR? Or
The ADR's been withdrawn.
it's already been withdrawn?
And do you want to say for a month? Well, I guess until
Yeah.
applicant's ready. I don't know if it'll be a month or not.
Yeah, the ADR, you won't see that for probably a year, I think, but there would be, these next things, I assume we'd get right back on the next agenda.
Yeah, so I think it's postponing until hopefully next month. We'll say next month.
Okay,
That's all right.
until next month.
All right, and you're okay with next month, Rich? All right. All right, so postponing for a month, and in that month, getting this a little bit more solved. All right, all in favor of postponing, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. And opposed, nay?
No.
One no. Ayes have it, I believe. Any abstentions? All right. Great. And then G is withdrawn, so we don't have to discuss that right now. All right, thank you. All right, moving on to I. It's HI, there's a typo in the packet. But anyway, it's the Nine Springs coming up. Long time no see, Brian. Apparently you do all the projects in Fitchburg now.
Lives here.
A lot going on. All right, why don't you tell us what's going on with this one?
Want me to pull up the presentation? Well, good evening, all. Terrell Walter with the Royal Capital Group. Here with me, you all know the live-in here, Brian Munson. Then we also have Kevin Yeska with JSD. Online, we have Mark Ernst and Eric Huberty with Ingberg Anderson Architects. bringing before you all the GIP for 9 Springs. We came before you October 19th with the concept plan. We've taken, roughly the last 6 months, do some additional work, do some additional due diligence, meet with the community, interface with staff, and, we really spent some good time with Deanna right when she hit the ground running, unfortunately or fortunately, to really work through our plans here. Happy to come forth before you all presenting the GIP in order to move this into the next step. At this point in time, I'll hand it over to Brian Munson to walk through some of the changes in site plan.
Great. Well, thank you, Terrell. Again, as mentioned, this has been in front of the body last fall for concept plan review, and a lot of the framework remains. We have worked diligently through several different aspects of the site design in terms of just making sure that the pieces are addressed that needed to be addressed. But the overall framework stays the same in terms of the orientation of the roads, majority of the orientation of the buildings, and the relationship from the buildings to the streets. Some things that we did do and made some adjustments. Number one was some adjustments to the density, and that's a reflection of the program moving to a 2 to 3 story format throughout the site. So what we're proposing here is 260 to 270 multifamily units, and that is broken out into approximately 123 for-sale units and 132 rental units in different placement throughout the neighborhood. We have 80 senior apartments located along MM in this location right here. We have expanded the commercial. So based on some feedback and some opportunities we've heard about, we're excited to offer really 4 locations for commercial. So clustered at the entrances, we have 3 commercial spaces. Our primary commercial here located at the main entrance to the north, a secondary commercial amenity space coming off of the right in, right out at MM, and then a new commercial space at the southern edge of the project. We also then continue to have our main commercial space in the center of the project, excited to really offer the views to and from that site as a signature location for some commercial uses in support of the project. We continue to pursue opportunities for some live-work configurations with some of the buildings. So you can see the hashed areas indicate some buildings where we are studying the opportunity to incorporate some additional commercial or employment through design of live-work units into those. And really, we've been spending a lot of time talking with staff, again, doing additional due diligence, soil explorations, really trying to understand the performa of the site and how that all works. So we're excited to be back here tonight to present the GIP. Again, this is now step 2 of a 3-step zoning process. We will be back with SIPs and really appreciate the comments that staff raised in regards to the design of buildings, the articulation of buildings, and so really that component comes in front of the body at the SIP stage, but we've taken those comments to heart and we're continuing to work on those to make sure that we really design a project that fits the site itself. Again, taking that grade as an opportunity, stepping buildings down the slope, and creating differentiations and articulations in the design of the buildings throughout the project. We're still very much interested in creating a really interesting open space environment in this project. So we see the grade and the transitions as opportunities. There's some challenges, we wholly admit that, but we do see those as opportunities to create some very interesting spaces and continue to pursue the idea of hubs and walking connections in addition to the sidewalks and orientation of the buildings out to the streets to really open up this site out to the general community. So we're excited to do that and appreciate all the comments staff have had to date and really look forward to working with everyone as we move into that SIP stage. Yep.
Anything else? We can do staff report.
Brian, once again, was very thorough. Just wanted to provide a little bit of background to the commission that the Plan Commission approved a PDD, SIP, and final plat for the At Edge in January 2018. This proposed development is similar, but with several changes in terms of, as Brian has already mentioned, the lower scale of the development, the incorporation of live-work, complementary commercial development is a little bit different. The site does present some significant challenges in terms of the depth of the construction fill on the site. That is something that the Public Works team is going to be working closely with the applicants to ensure that the buildings and the public infrastructure can be accommodated on that fill material. So there was a couple other things I wanted to touch on. Right now, phase one in the next year to 3 years would be commercial buildings, the senior living buildings, rental units, all the roads, stormwater management, site amenities. And then phase two, at this point, 3 to 5 years out, would be the for sale townhomes. Staff recommends approval of the rezone request to the PDD GIP with the 4 conditions. And then staff also recommends approval of the preliminary plat request with the 18 conditions.
All right. I can open the public hearing. I do not have anyone registered to speak at this point in time, unless I'm wrong and I missed something. But not seeing anything, I can close the public hearing, but open up to questions, comments from the commissioners. Rich?
As always. This is amazing. You have 110-foot difference in grade. I was reading the PSI, their report, their borings. And one of them, they say building, I think it's 7, is not, they suggest, I think they say building placement needs further evaluation. And some of the other borings, I think over half of them had debris or whatever beyond or even down past the depth of the boring. You're not going to be able to use a standard or traditional type foundation and structure? How do you guys have, this is, to me, it sounds like it might be cost prohibitive with all this, and I'm really glad to see that we're moving ahead with this, don't get me wrong. But I'm curious, because even down to the sidewalks and the pathways and things like that, they could be undermined or whatever. How do you see addressing all that?
Yeah, so from our standpoint, we admit that this is a difficult site. We're appreciative of the past 6 months to be able to study it in a lot more detail and working with PSI. This isn't abnormal for us in terms of urban development and dealing with difficult sites. We have a site that we developed downtown Milwaukee, 0.4 acres, and we have about 60 geopiers. That are in the site there, which, we work around ways to develop for the site. Here, bringing down the building heights, being a little more cost conscious in terms of our constructability is one way that we offset that cost without necessarily losing market in terms of having units that could, carry the rent essentially for what we would need to be able to finance the project. So we do have some additional studies that we have to do going into the SIP phase in terms of truly quantifying what that cost is. In addition to that, finalizing our pro forma and our financing to make sure that, we're in good shape. We are, from where we sit today, we feel confident that we have a solve for that in terms of bringing down our building heights so that, we can be in a position to offset some of what we're seeing in the industry from a construction cost standpoint, in addition to those deep foundations that we know we'll have to do here at the site.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments at all? I think it's great to see the site redeveloped. I think it's got some challenges, but also I think there's some really neat advantages to it with some of the views that you talked about as well. So I think that that's going to be really attractive to a lot of people as well. Redevelopment's always great to see. So, someone want to do a motion then?
I'll move approval of rezone 2445-22 with the 4 conditions as noted.
Second.
Sent by Randy. All in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. All right, that one's approved. Next one.
And move approval of preliminary plat 2447-22 with the 18 conditions as noted.
Second.
Sent by Randy. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, that's approved as well.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, moving along to the pre-application request with the Latino Chamber. Come on up. I'm not sure who all's speaking or not speaking, but come on down. Let us know what you're doing here.
Okay. Mayor Richardson, City Planner Schmidt, members of the Plan Commission here tonight, good evening, and we thank you for allowing us to give you more information about our dream. My name is Vic Villacrez. I'm on the board of the Wisconsin Latino Chamber of Commerce. I'm here with my executive director, Jessica Carvazos. The Chamber is I think it's important to understand that the Chamber is a 501c6 nonprofit. We are a member-based organization, and our members are small businesses from all over the state of Wisconsin. Our new location at 5262 Verona Road will truly be a gateway to the future prosperity for our members, their families, and for the city of Fitchburg as well. We will provide our members with valuable training and education, networking opportunities, administrative and cultural support, and most importantly, hope for a better future and recognition as strong community members. We will submit a formal application to rezone the parcel from its current zoning of business highway to business general. This will allow us to carry out the mission of the Latino Chamber of Commerce by creating a space that will house our offices, be an incubator space for aspiring small businesses, a feed kitchen for food entrepreneurs, and again, a place to showcase our hard work, undying spirit, and rich cultural heritage. So with that, I thank you, every one of you, for supporting our dream, and I wanted to turn it over to Jessica, and she'll kind of give more detail as to what we're doing here.
Thank you all, and it's a pleasure to be here. The Latino Chamber of Commerce moved to Fitchburg in 2017. We moved into a small 2,000 square foot location, but as of this year, we've served over 8,000 individuals within that time frame, and individuals meaning small business owners and micro businesses throughout the state. The Latino Chamber of Commerce has gained numerous awards. We were the 2019 SBA Business Champion. We were also the National Award winner of the U.S. Hispanic Chamber Award for being a hub of economic empowerment for businesses here in Wisconsin. We've cultivated over 600 members, creating 450 jobs in that time, and producing $3.4 million in revenue through these members. So in this plight, our desire is to continue to develop a hub zone, a hub area, or a hub building where we could create jobs, improve the current economic status of residents of Fitchburg and around the corridor of what we call the gateway, so Verona, Madison, Sun Prairie, everywhere that Latinos are growing and really developing as laborers, as business owners, and as the next generation of employees here in the state. This building is really imperative to us because we see it as an opportunity to create a viable workforce and upskill these individuals that are coming into the chamber. And so with that, you know, you have the plan in front of you. There are 3 different focuses. The focuses we have in that plan is basically having a food innovation hub, which will create, or retrain our small business owners that have restaurants on how to pivot after COVID and create a more sustainable model. Then it's a retail division as well. We have a lot of retail business owners that were impacted by COVID, so we're going to retrain them in this facility as well. And of course, our offices that we were recently awarded a $3.4 million grant by the governor to expand our operations. And so with that money, we have to put it back into the workforce and hire 6 new people to do outreach and to really be business technical assistants, supporters or specialists helping our small business pivot after COVID. And so with that being said, we've outgrown our 2,000 square foot location, and we'd love to have the opportunity to house this workforce innovation hub here in Fitchburg. Thank you.
Staff report, please.
I think Jessica gave a good overview. This is an existing building, an existing site, and on Verona Road. And so they're looking at reworking, doing some interior renovations, and you can see there'd be some changes on the site too. Staff has recommended a rezone to business general, which that would be another stage. This evening, this is just a pre-application coming before you all for any feedback or concerns or questions that you may have for the applicant.
All right, and I've got one person who's registered in support, Kent Yan, and the comments very supportive of the Chamber's project for the community and area population. He's also available to answer any questions as well. And that's the only thing I have for now. So if there's questions, comments, feedback, Rich?
It's my neighborhood. I'm glad. But are you all going to have a neighborhood meeting?
Yes, we are.
Has that
May
been?
4th, I think, is scheduled.
Pardon me? And
May
you're
4th
sending
is
out
scheduled.
notifications, or how are you posting that, or notifying people?
So we're getting the aldermen in the area to help us support the distribution of that, but also we have our workers that are going to be doing handouts and emails, and we're just going to try to get all the apartment complexes in the area and try to get as many people there as possible.
I'd be glad to help if you need more.
We would love your help.
And I think it's going to be at Little John's.
Little John's,
Yeah,
yes.
Little John's is providing us the space for that. Yep.
Other questions, comments? Emily?
I was just going to say, it sounds like an absolutely wonderful project, and I'm just so happy to see, an organization such as yourselves coming into that neighborhood and really, delivering those incubator spaces that I think are really, in need, and just really giving a boost to the neighborhood. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emily.
Randy?
Yeah, I'll echo Emily's comments as well. Just the one question I have is, the food trucks, are you parking the food trucks here, or will they be set up to serve?
So we're not really, our concern is more to help them innovate their models. They're going to probably be in other locations like State Street.
Yeah.
Most of them are already members, and so they're already operating and they have their licenses in other communities. But the problem is that a lot of them are apartment dwellers, and so they don't have a place to park their food carts. So our desire is to start with 5, because that's what we can accommodate and help them as they grow, into economically grow, and they can afford a space to park their vehicles, so.
Sure, very good, all right, thank you.
I know that I'm just thrilled that you're putting down permanent roots here in Fitchburg and staying in the community. It's been a great addition for the community, so
Thank you,
I'm very
Mayor.
excited about that.
We're excited.
Thank you, Mayor Richardson.
Anyone else? Seems like people like what they see and excited to have you here, so looks like no concerns at this point in time.
And we just want to thank the city of Fitchburg and the Economic Development Department. Mike Zimmerman and Joyce have been instrumental
very helpful
in educating and working with us through the process. Sometimes it's a scary process, but they make it easy and educate everyone on how to do it right.
Mike can be scary sometimes.
He is
No. There's no really action to take on this, but I think at this point, we like it and looking forward to seeing you at the next step.
See you. Yep,
Thank you so
see
much.
Next time. Thank you
Have a
very
good night.
much.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Excuse me.
All right. Next up is L, Resolution R8122. Do you want to do just a staff report then and let us know what this is?
Certainly. So this is a resolution approving pedestrian bike path easement agreement on Lot 1 of Certified Survey Map 15059. So this is the proposed Plesco property, the Traceway North apartments that you all have recently approved, the PDD-SIP. And so what this resolution is about is that that Plesco has agreed to allow an 8-foot wide concrete pedestrian bike path as required adjacent to Traceway Drive as part of this development. And in order to construct that pedestrian bike path and provide adequate terrace width, this easement is needed. So it's about a 4-foot easement in addition to, onto their property.
All right. With that, we do have one speaker. Steve, if you'd like to come up and speak, that'd be great.
Would it be possible to put up a map or an aerial of the lot?
Yes. Yes, sir.
While she does that, I will start. Good evening, everyone. I'm Steve Arnold from 2530 Targhee Street. I am representing Bike Fitchburg. I'm their treasurer. This afternoon, or maybe this morning, you received a letter, which also was handed out again this evening. It refers to 2 resolutions, only one of which is before you. I'll call it 81, because the R and the 22 will be the same all year. We are asking for a 10-foot path instead of an 8-foot path. The SIP approved by you specifies a 10-foot asphalt path. This easement plus the other resolution not before you tonight changed that to an 8-foot path. There is a 10-foot path along Fish Hatchery Road from the Beltline access down to Whalen Road, and it connects with all the other paths throughout the city. And just to the west of this on Traceway will be the Hub Neighborhood Center, starting construction next year, which will have a 10-foot path in front of it. Asphalt indicates a multi-use path for bike and pedestrian use. Concrete indicates a sidewalk for walking only. We really need 10-foot for safety. 10-foot allows two-way mixed traffic to pass each other safely in opposite directions. 8-foot is allowed, but is considered substandard. It should not be allowed in new construction. Also, if Plesco prefers concrete, we want the concrete sidewalk joints tooled, not tooled, but saw cut. Tooled joints are much rougher to ride on. And because concrete indicates a sidewalk and no bikes are allowed, it would need a painted center line, as you see along Fish Hatchery Road. That indicates that it's a mixed-use path. So we are asking for, we prefer concrete, asphalt, but the important thing is the 10-foot path, 10-foot width. This will, also as the apartments to the west redevelop, you will have the opportunity to connect to Leopold School and the Cannonball Path. So we do not want an 8-foot wide bottleneck in our safe and comfortable system. I've indicated on the letter, we've indicated 5 reasons why we need a 10-foot path and 5 changes that are needed, 4 of which apply to this resolution. Last, I'd just like to briefly mention equity. This is a Healthy Neighborhoods Initiative area. We should be investing more, not less, in this neighborhood. So we should not be putting a substandard path in here to save money. We should apply the full 10-foot path. Unfortunately, this is not a very helpful diagram, but you can see on the SIP site plan that there's ample room. There's actually 17 sidewalks connecting front doors to the path that will be 2 feet shorter, and there's ample pervious area and so on. So we ask that you amend this to bring it to the council's attention, that this should be 10 foot, and that I will answer their questions on Tuesday night.
Thank you, Steve. All right, I can open up to questions, comments from the commissioners. Rich?
Are you getting tired yet? Since this was 10-foot asphalt in a specific implementation plan, you think that would be specific. How did this get changed to 8 feet? I kind of got lost in there, the transition. Was there something we did, something the city did, or how did that happen?
I don't really know.
I think I know a little bit, actually, from what I was told before the meeting.
Yeah, I think there's some discussions that shifted into Public Works, and if you know more.
Yeah, a couple things. One is the street needs lighting. It's very dark, and so we need to put streetlights in, which takes up some space, and also just trees and greenery and things like that. This is a redevelopment. It's not new development. It's really a redevelopment, and so spaces are a little more limited. So in talking with Public Works, I think is a couple of things. One is getting a couple of feet of buffer in green space that you can plant trees in, you can have lighting in for increasing safety in those areas. In terms of asphalt versus cement, I'm not really sure. But I do agree that, if it is cement, having it saw cut in the center line would be great enhancements to that. I think that makes a lot of sense.
I still don't see why you'd have it be asphalt, though. Or, sorry, concrete.
I'm not sure why.
Why you want to spend 3 times the price?
I don't think there's much difference
Not
anymore.
Oh. I think
asphalt's pretty.
So, because I had the exact same question, like, how do we get here? How do we usually don't even see things like, specifying this it just seems kind of weird that.
Mr. Mayor, may I relay what Tracy Foss told me?
Sure.
So, Plesco representatives had discussion with our utility engineer, Tracy Foss, who is the engineer on this project. So they, first of all, expressed preference for concrete because of aesthetics and constructability. They felt that it would interface better with the concrete paths that would lead up to the individual entrances. They also expressed concern about cost, and that's why, because asphalt is cheaper, concrete is more expensive. And so they said, well, if we have to do 8 foot and we want it to be concrete, it will be more expensive, and can we make it less expensive by making it 8 foot? And Tracy, who does not bicycle, thought that that was a reasonable compromise, and so accepted it on behalf of the city. Now, how we got here is that if the council passes this resolution and the other one, which is the subdivision improvement agreements, then you will change and amend the SIP to show an 8-foot path. So I am asking the council and the Plan Commission and Public Works to recommend, and the council to pass this with the original SIP width and not change it. And so they need 2 more foot of buffer, and they do have it on the building side. I am not proposing that the terrace be any narrower for the streetlights and for the trees. That neighborhood needs those improvements too, and those would be standard. Even though it's redevelopment, it is vacant land at this time. And the existing conditions say that there's no buildings on the lot.
All right, so I think there's a couple options. We can change it, or we can postpone it and get some of these questions answered and find out a little bit more. So
What public, I'm sorry.
go ahead, Dean.
Well, what Public Works did is they approved as submitted, and then they've said that some drawings need to go to council for their review.
Yeah, they ask that the council
Yeah.
get this
They push the
additional
buck to the
information.
council. Okay.
That, yes,
All right.
that's a way.
Pass the buck
I mean,
to the
you,
council. All
so
right.
you could do that, and then it wouldn't have to come back, I guess.
Okay.
I-
All right. People want to speak to questions, concerns?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd rather recommend that it is a 10-foot path and be clear that, Plan Commission has a position on that if that's our position.
Emily?
I would agree, and especially with the hub going in and the pump track, I think there's gonna be a lot of traffic, and let's make that as safe as possible. And if it's just 2 additional feet, I think it's worth it.
Hey, Randy?
I'm in agreement as well. I mean, if there's no issue with the additional 2 feet because of buildings, we should maintain that standard. I mean, I'm afraid if we go 8 foot, this is setting another precedent, and we're going to be back down this road again.
I think you make a good point, Emily, about the pump track, that we are encouraging bikes to come in this area. And that necessitates a bigger path as well. Asphalt versus concrete, any thoughts on that?
Well, they'll probably want to go back to asphalt if they got to put in 10 feet worth instead of the 8, right? So that problem will probably solve itself.
We can still recommend. if that's what
I'd
you
rather
want.
leave it.
Hold on. Not everyone at once. Rich and then Stephen. Rich?
We could just leave it either way. If they use concrete, saw cut, or asphalt, either is acceptable. It's just our concern is 10 feet, right?
Stephen?
Yeah, I'd just rather leave it open.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Emily?
I did like the suggestion of having a center line. Is that standard with what we have currently throughout the city or not?
No, most
It's
paths don't have a center line.
Oh, okay, all right.
All our new paths have center lines.
Okay.
I would
I
think
think
like
that's
whatever's standard.
Whatever's standard
or-
is, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a visual thing. If people are on the path, normally the bike path is asphalt. They come to a concrete spot, the center line at least indicates this, yes, this is still a bike path.
Correct. You see that on the south side of McKee Road in the city of Madison, west of the Super Target. It starts as an asphalt path with a center line up at the Ice Age Trail bridge crossing. And as it comes to approximately Manchester or so, it becomes substandard width and it becomes concrete, but they've continued the center line to indicate that it's a bike path. It's still a multi-use path.
So you would like to see the center line regardless of whether it's asphalt or concrete.
That would be our standard.
Yeah.
But if it's low traffic, multi-use paths do not require center lines. You put them in when you're the southwest path, just west of Camp Randall, and it's cheek to jowl. But if it's concrete, then the center line is really required if you want to allow bicycles on it, because otherwise state statute says no bicycles on sidewalks. You could also do it by signage, but the center line, I think, is a better option.
Yeah.
Emily, go ahead.
I would say, like, as a pedestrian, like, I find it, like, I walk on the bike paths a lot, and I find it really helpful to have that center line, is because it just keeps everyone in their lane. And especially if we're thinking that this is gonna be fairly congested with bikes, plus like all of the housing around there and people, being able to come off their porches and onto the sidewalk. I think it would be helpful and just a plain safety thing.
Anything else, or sounds like an amended motion? Want to take a stab at a motion?
Sure, I'd move approval of Resolution R1822 amended so that it's a 10-foot path rather than 8, and leaving the option of either concrete or asphalt, but either way with a center line.
Well, first I need a second. All right, seconded by Rich. Okay, would you like
And then saw cut joints.
If
it's
If
concrete.
it's concrete.
Yes, so
Okay.
that's okay.
So amended, okay.
Okay.
If it's concrete saw joint. All right. Any further comments at all? All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay? All right.
I thank you, and I think that you may find those 4 bullet points of the text changes that we're suggesting. Obviously, staff will have the final word, but that's the research I did.
All right, thank you. Report from department.
Yes, I am so sorry. I just totally lost my. I do just want to touch on a couple of things. The first thing is on Monday, the new associate planner starts.
Yay.
So his name is Zach Jones, and we are really looking forward to having him. The other thing that I just wanted to mention, and I didn't get my slides back up, so the next time, what I'm going to start doing is just doing a little review of some of the smart code developments that we've recently approved. For example, tomorrow I'll be going ahead and approving a smart code development in Terra Vesa on Lot 56 for a mixed-use development. So I will bring that forward for you all coming in the future, just for your review. So if you'll just give me 1 second.
And that's something I asked Deanna to do because those smart code projects don't come here, which I don't like. And there's like a 190 unit apartment building out in Terra Vesa getting built. I think that's the 3rd mixed use building.
Yes.
There's a lot of projects that are happening that we don't know anything about, which I'm not a huge fan of.
Mm-hmm. So I will be bringing those forward just kind of for your reference. And yay, I got my slides, and I know it's getting late, but if you'll just give me a second here. So I just wanted to, and then this is one in 9 Springs that I just wanted to bring forward to you too. This was a recently approved one on Sherrill Parkway. Cheryl and then Lacey is coming down here, so it's this site.
Right next to the railroad tracks.
Right next to the railroad tracks, yep. Just wanted to bring this to your attention, that it's 57 apartment units with retail ready on the first floor, but they are proposing a bar and restaurant kind of on the corner. So hopefully that'll be something that could be kind of cool. The bar and restaurant would be down in this part of the building, underground parking, outdoor seating area, seating space right in here. And then this is what it looks like, the elevation. So I just wanted to at least get started on that. I'll bring you Lot 56 in Terra Vesa the next time that we get together. And if there are updates or things that you all are interested in, give me a heads up and I'll put together something in a department report. That's all I got.
All right. And one other staffing thing that if you didn't hear, Wade is also leaving. He's taking a job with the DNR. And so a little more staff changes as well, unfortunately. But
well, I'm really happy for Wade. I think this is really his groove. I think he'll be really, really good there. So.
And I believe that you're also taking the opportunity to just look at the roles a little bit and see if there's any changes that you want to make to the roles in the department.
A little bit, yeah. We're doing some talking, right?
Opportunity.
Opportunity.
For everyone.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, so that's all the announcements I have.
I just want to say quick, we're really going to miss Wade at Ag and Rural. He's been a big part of that committee for a long time, and he's been a big part of a lot of the plans that we put together. So he's done a great job over the years, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, and I would echo that with H&I too.
All right, nothing else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
By Randy, seconded by Steven. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. All right, we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.